Yeah.
I've sent it to you via email and via SharePoint.
Recording in progress.
No, it's on here.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see it on here
It's on the
yet.
printed packet, I don't know if it's on the.
Right here, right? I have it right there.
Got it, Silky? Okay. I call this meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Good evening. Ms. McKinney, Ms. Niesel, I'm sorry.
Here.
Ms. McKinney,
Here.
Ms. Pompey,
Here.
Ms. Pope,
Here.
Mr. Roberts. Ms. Weaver is absent. Mayor Jordan.
I'm here. Please join us in a moment of silent reflection as we think about several Greenbelters and others who have passed away since our last council meeting. Those include Neil Williamson, Kathy Gigliotti, and Paul Benoit. Please join us as we pause to reflect on these individuals. Thank you so much. Councilmember Pompey, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Councilmember Pope, will you read the community pledge for us?
Yes, my pleasure. The strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation. We celebrate all people by sharing together. All are enriched. We strive to be respectful, welcoming community that is open, accessible, safe, and fair.
Thank you very much. So this is a council meeting. We meet 2 times a month, except for August and December on Mondays to set policy and take formal actions. Our meetings are open to the public, except for executive sessions as authorized by state law, so that residents and others can observe council's deliberations. We do strive to provide reasonable opportunity for the public to voice opinions on matters being discussed and considered. So we'll pause periodically during the meeting. And during these times, if you wish to make a comment, if you're in the room, you raise your hand, and you can go to the podium after being recognized or that microphone. And you'll need to state your name and where you live in Greenbelt or in the area. If you're on Zoom, you can use the Q&A tab to submit a written question, or you can also raise your virtual hand. And once again, after being recognized, we'll promote you so that you can speak, but you'll need to give us your name. We don't take anonymous comments. You have to say who you are and where you live, more or less. We really need to know that for the minutes. And if you're watching on cable TV or on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and we hope you are, you can submit a written question. The email address is questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So we're about to do petitions and requests, which is a standing part of the agenda. And anyone wishing to make a statement has 5 minutes to speak on one topic. And if you are commenting during the meeting, you have 2 minutes. So in general, we request that you please be civil in your remarks. We're all neighbors here, and we should feel free to speak, but we're all neighbors. So at this time, let's go to petitions and requests. So please, and you can go to either one of these microphones. We're having some technical challenges, so you'll need to press the button on there to turn the microphone on. It's on the top of the microphone. Uh-huh.
No, I'm colorblind.
It's on. It's on.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Jordan, council members. This evening, I'm addressing the Council not as a member of the Advisory Committee on Trees, but rather as a resident that is regularly volunteering in Badiati Park, picking litter and removing invasive non-native plants. This week is officially National Invasive Species Awareness Week. It is a multi-agency event to raise awareness about invasive species, which are a serious challenge for our parks and connected ecosystems. As previously shared with some members of this council, we in Greenbelt are privileged. Residents can engage in recreational activities in natural areas, most often dominated by the presence of trees. From our densely visited city parks and playgrounds, to Greenbelt Park and its typical eastern woodland ecosystem. As you know, the park is studied, monitored, and managed by the U.S. National Park Service. And finally, to Greenbelt Forest Preserve, a protected environment in its natural state. Unfortunately, while recreational activities in natural areas provide human benefits, it also poses significant threats to wildlife and ecosystems, necessitating management intervention, which are highly recommended for mitigating negative impacts. As you know, for example, active activities such as hiking or even passive, such as walking in natural areas, can introduce non-native invasive species, altering floristic composition and potentially dominating native species over time. As I said, we in Greenbelt are privileged. Among our residents, we have some of the most knowledgeable professionals in the field of urban parks management, as well as proven expertise in controlled methods of invasive species within the metropolitan Washington region. First, Mr. Robert Trumbull, a retired entomologist in the Plant Protection and Weed Management section at Maryland Department of Agriculture. Mr. Trumbull is also a former member of Maryland Invasive Species Council and still an active member of our City Advisory Committee on Trees. Second, we have Mr. Michael Comiso, Deputy Superintendent of National Capital Parks East, National Park Service, which includes Greenbelt Park. The park has a Weed Warrior program, volunteer program, teaching invasive plants identification and appropriate removal procedure. During the council work session with NPS on March 15, 2023, Mr. Comiso did express interest in a proposal to train and share local Weed Warrior volunteers. Finally, we also have Mr. Damian Ossie, wildlife biologist at DC government. Mr. Ossie is also the chair of National Capital PRISM. PRISM is a capital region partnership for invasive species management. It's a partnership coordinated by the Metropolitan Washington Council of Government, and is a member, as you know, of our City Forest Preserve Advisory Board. Therefore, would you please, Mayor Jordan, council members, initiate a discussion with our city manager, Mr. Samaran, in order to invite Mr. Trumbull, Mr. Comiso, and Mr. Ossie to a conversation, if not more, which must provide a more comprehensive understanding of recreation impacts across Greenbelt's various natural environment, and that in terms of the presence and proliferation of exotic non-native species. Hopefully, those gentlemen, they may also propose various strategies and guidelines considering both conservation goals, but also recreational needs. Those two are tied together, as we know. They are essential for the sustainable management of our natural areas and planned recreational activities in Greenbelt. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I wish I'd known that today is National Invasive Species Recognition Day, or is it this week? I would have done a proclamation for tonight. Yeah, darn. Next year, I'll make a note of that for next year. Are there other petitions or requests? Yeah, please, Mr. Orleans.
Bill Orleans, resident. I don't think I heard a reason given for the absence of our Mayor Pro Tem tonight, but since one of my requests is addressed specifically to her, I'll go ahead and I will proceed anyway. As in the past, I've inquired about the activities list, why it's projected and not provided on paper. I learned actually tonight, I may have been told this before and had forgotten, but I learned tonight that indeed the activities list appears in the minutes of the meeting once the minutes are approved. I was interested in something that was included in the last regular meeting's activities list, and I've subsequently been given a paper copy of it. My request is that I don't understand why, one, any member of council, including the mayor pro tem, should be projecting onto the screen something from her computer that's not available for immediately for to print a copy of. I would hope this would be rectified in the future, and that for the interested public, print copies of that regular meeting's activities list be made available on the table up front. In reviewing the minutes of a meeting in February 24, tonight, I noticed that with reference to my own petition or request that night, I think the reference was Mr. Orleans repeated the same request he's made previously. And tonight I'm repeating the same request I've made previously, or one of them specifically. I'm still awaiting notice of the Maryland statute or the statute from any other jurisdiction across this planet enabling Greenbelt Council to allocate taxpayers' money in closed session, specifically with regard to compensation of our previous interim city manager, but most recently it was done again with regard to compensation of our new and permanent city manager. The allocation of money should be done in open session, and council should be willing to be more forthcoming when they decide to do something about spending our money. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's see, City Manager Summerall, you distributed a copy of the responses to Mr. Orleans' various petitions tonight. Actually, you shared a copy from May the 30th, 2024. So we are responsive. Let's see, are there any other petitions or requests, or is there anybody online? No? Well, Q&A? Let's see, I do see somebody. It's just Mr. Shapiro saying he's not getting audio on Zoom. So we'll see if we can straighten that out. But the meeting must go on. So at this time, let's move to the next section of the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Are there any modifications to the consent agenda? And if there are none, could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Pompey has seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And now for the agenda itself, I'd like to make a slight amendment. We already did the community pledge, so I'd like to remove that from the agenda. Is that on? That was on the. Seeing it on the one tonight. Okay. Well, I'd like to go ahead and. Are there any modifications to the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay. So you're moving that we approve the agenda as presented?
Okay.
I'm just trying to be.
Concise?
Yeah, I'm not so concise, but is there a second?
Clear?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Is something wrong?
What?
Asked if we had any other changes.
No, nobody said anything, so I said we're moving it along.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you so much. This is not stapled together the right way. So that's going to bring us to the next item on the agenda, which is legislation. It's not legislation. Wait, hold on. Administrative reports. City Manager Summerall, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Mr. Mayor? Good evening, council.
Fantastic. Good evening.
All right, we've been busy. We've had several events. I've got a list of things I'll start off with. We conducted a tour of the Foremost Chevy site A broker now has control of the Chevy's site, and they're actively marketing the property. So you'll see signs up there that will list the property for lease, and we're working with the broker to attract a full-service restaurant. Why full-service restaurant? That's what the restrictions of the property are, and I think we're in need on full-service restaurants. A great location for a restaurant. Yes.
May I ask a quick question on that specific topic? Who is responsible for the maintenance of the exterior property while it's being marketed? Because I drove past it yesterday and it's really getting overgrown.
Mm-hmm. I would coordinate with the broker. I'll reach out to the broker and ask them to address the issues on the site. John Mason and I walked the property on the interior just to get eyes on conditions, and they are maintaining the features on the inside, such as the running water, the HVAC system. So inside the facilities, it looks surprisingly well kept. But I'll follow up on the exterior issues. We're also in discussions on the federal earmarks projects for submission. Just as a reminder to council, last year we submitted federal earmarks for the youth center roof replacement. So we're preparing a set of projects to submit in the upcoming federal earmarks request. Those submissions are expected in a couple months. We'll continue with what the request has been, that we expect a request for federal earmarks, and we'll take it from there. We are pursuing public safety surcharge funds. We may ask a letter or some voice vote from council to push the request to county council and the county administration. Just some background material: when new construction projects take place in any community, there's a public safety surcharge that's to be paid by the developer, and that's to cover the increase in public safety and demand in public safety services. We had several projects built in our community that we have not collected those fees on, and they amount to $600,000 and over. So we could use that money, or we're really planning on that money for vehicle replacements for the police department.
Yeah, we definitely should be entitled to those funds that were set aside. You know, we are dealing with the impacts of those new developments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't understand why we have not received the funding from the counties yet.
We'll continue to push for those funds. We hosted several Know Your Rights trainings. One particular for the employees just a few days ago, and we're planning a train-the-trainer session for March 8th. And Giselle Alvarez is on the working to coordinate a legal clinic. So those are two key activities that will benefit our residents. The EV team continues to work on the EV report and plan. We are in the process of securing 2 EV charging stations, or 1 dual port charging station for the police department. So that's part of our MEA grant, and that's in the works. We expect that project to take a couple months. We hosted the utility town hall. Thank you, council members who were present. Very productive dialogue, and we are working on having a monthly town hall. The next topic will be rent stabilization and tenants' rights. Our economic development team is planning a nonprofit roundtable. This is similar to our hotels roundtable. So that event is scheduled in mid-March, and we'll let council know once those details are finalized. We continue to work on the budget. The budget deficit has been reduced from 4.5 to 2.7 million, and we continue to make improvements on our financial forecast. Just last week, we received updated real estate revenue projections from ESTAT, the state, that comes through the county. The mayor was helping me put some pressure on the county to get these reports down. We've got it. The picture looks a little better. However, that's considering prior to the numbers were put together prior to the new administration taking effect, and we're not sure what the impact will be on local tax base. But we have better real estate tax revenues, and that pushes our revenue by a little over 500,000. So things are getting better. The various technology projects continue, specifically the website. So we're just a reminder, we're working on 3 different projects simultaneously. One is the website redo. That's for what's visibly available to the public. And then there's the agenda management project. That's an internal, how we manage our council documents and agenda. And so those projects are continuing. And we've collected over 80 surveys on our website. Once, I don't know, we'll probably close that survey out this week and release the findings and make a decision on a template. But we're making good progress on that. And finally, our camp registrations are open now to non-residents. The team just completed over 400 resident registrations. So we're now moving on to non-residents. Many of the camps are already filled. We will take applications for waitlist and other camps that have seats available. We have a busy week ahead of us. On Wednesday, we'll have the work session with the superintendent. Then we have the 4 cities meeting on the 27th. There are 2 events on the 27th. We have secured a shuttle for council and staff to attend both the Greenbelt Elementary School academic performance briefing and then hop on the bus over to the 4 cities meeting in College Park. And that concludes my report.
I've got a couple of things. One, with the work session with Dr. House, I got an email, and so if you have some additional specific questions that you'd like to pose, we can send them over tomorrow. So please take a look at the agenda, and if there's some additional questions, we can forward them.
Should we send those to city manager
That's fine, yeah.
and council? Okay.
Send them to me, city manager. The other thing, we've been in this crazy, terrible, with so much uncertainty that we're facing right now. We're getting good communication from NASA Goddard, but I'm wondering about the status of our neighbors, the National Park Service, how they are, what they see coming down the pike with their operations, and even more so BARC, which is the Agriculture Department. I'm just wondering how they're doing over there. I haven't really heard anything, except they have a lot of grant funding, and that would be probably affecting their
Question. We touched on this subject last meeting, the development that's going in on, what's the 7010
7010 Greenbelt Road,
7010,
the
mhm.
senior
So have
condos?
we maybe reached out and asked if they would maybe come by and give like a 15-minute update and presentation, just what's going on, so everyone is aware of, and maybe a snapshot of what it's going to look like?
Yes, we're working on a presentation on the product and what the product's going to be and how folks could have access to the product, the condos. We, if I recall correctly, last meeting, or what we're working on was to schedule more of a town hall type of setting where they're presenting on the project versus a presentation to council.
Yeah, and I remember I said it might be a little bit much. But I mean, if everybody wants a town hall meeting, that's fine. I just thought just a short, introduction is because we've been talking about this project for like 10 years, and finally it's coming to fruition. So it was just more or less maybe just a short, a clip of like, this is what it's going to look like. We're finally going to get it done. What's the time frame, and just something nice, short, and precise for about 15 minutes. That's what I was thinking.
Kind of like an update if to
Right.
see if anything's changed.
Yeah, right. Because we've already went through the whole procedure that we've gotten the whole presentation and materials and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if that's.
It is possible, I'm taking direction from council, that previously you wanted more of a town hall setting. Is this presentation to council in addition to that, or a substitute to what was previously requested?
So I guess the question is, what is the intended outcome of what we're trying to get out there? So if we are simply trying to inform people of what's coming and it's just an update, then a presentation is fine. But if we're trying to, if you feel as though the developer will have additional information and insight to be able to answer questions from the public, because that's what will come from a town hall, but I don't know if they're ready for that or not yet. So I think that's the question to ask them, and then we can determine whether or not it's better for a town hall or a presentation.
Because maybe that would be a more in-depth presentation, a town hall where they maybe have more specific detailed information that people may want to, who are interested in, you know. For us, I think I'm just really ready for an update, just a quick, this is what's happening, this is, you know.
I think it's a little startling to some people to see the plot being cleared. But thinking back, there used to be a nursing home there. There was a fire, so a lot of the foliage and the trees that have grown there weren't there before. So I think just a quick 15-minute update or something is, and if there's a lot of interest in greater detail, if the builders are interested in providing like an extensive discussion on everything. Just a quick update.
Okay, we'll make that change. I know Terry had the conversation with the developer as part of the building permits for the city, and they were not ready to make a presentation.
Right, yeah, I mean, just a quick update. And then later on, maybe more detail, because people are going to know, they want to know what kind of trees, what kind of brushes, what kind of materials. And so there's going to be a lot of interest, I think, in these kind of, in these, 55 plus condos. So, but I would just like to hear an update, just a quick rundown, what's happening.
Sure, so we'll make that change and we'll ask the developer when they're ready to come present to council.
Other questions for the city manager? No? Ms. Pompey?
I just wanted to make a comment, more of a comment than a question, but the city manager mentioned getting in the information from the State Department of Taxation on real estate tax revenue. And I just wanted to comment that has a real, $500,000, it sounds like that's great coming into the city, but that has a real impact on our residents, because that means that their real estate taxes are going up. I know in my community, I live in Lakeside, almost every house in Lakeside that was assessed this time around went up in value nearly 30%. So that means we're going to be paying nearly 30% more taxes. And sure, that's spread out over 3 years, but that's a 10% increase per year. And that's a significant amount of money. So I just wanted to, put that out there that, people are already in our community are going to be going through some pretty difficult financial times with their job situations, and that these increased tax revenue it's going to be a hardship on people. So I just wanted folks to be aware of that.
It's very, very true. I think we're coming up on some very difficult times. Let's see, we got a question.
Thank you for the property tax. The increase is crazy. Remember Xavier Karub, Lakeside. I'm one of those that are really freaking out about the increase. This is just a question for our city manager, and it's still related to invasive species awareness. I did consult the administrative report, and I noticed that for the Martin Luther King Days of Service, only 5 volunteers showed up, and that in the last report there for President's Day, there was not even a reference to it. Would you please follow up a little bit that to make sure that we are taking those events very seriously? Because this is really a time, especially Martin Luther King Days of Service, people are eager to participate, and it is, in terms of awareness, there's no better moment. I have participated in those kind of events. I have also organized those events for at the time Council Member Cersei, who is now the mayor of City of Tacoma Park, and we were able to gather 175 people. I know it's not easy. There's a lot of resistance, but we worked very hard with Councilmember Cersei and Councilmember Dybala. I think Mayor Jordan, Cindy Dybala. We worked very hard and people are showing up. So 5 persons showing up for those 2 events, I think there's something that has to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Onto that very briefly, That was the third reschedule of that event. It was actually, it had to be rescheduled twice because of weather. So it simply did not fit a lot of people's schedules anymore. And it happened to be the first nice day in a really, really long time. I myself stopped by, but I wasn't able to stay. And I too was disappointed at the number of people, but I want to give staff grace here because again, a third reschedule of an event is not going to get the same number of people as the first time.
I completely
And
agree.
I'm going to let
I mean,
Mr. Salmeron respond
yeah,
now because
yeah.
he had something to say as well.
Yes.
I would thank you. I appreciate it, Councilmember Niso. I'll also add that we had several competing events. I myself attended a cleanup at the elementary school, and there were over 15 individuals at that event. So we had multiple events. People were split across the city, and I think there were 3 events. So
Um,
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I would, yes, please go ahead.
I guess just to add to that, especially as we're thinking about service events in the colder months, I also know that there were a lot of people who wanted to do service, but because it has been so cold, they didn't want to do it in the outdoors. So if we could also look at offering alternatives for service in the future that may be indoor service events, I think that would also be a welcome attraction for a lot of residents who may not be able to get outside but still want to serve, especially on the important days that link to either President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, whatever that might be.
thank you, Councilmember Kenny. I would add that we also have several community groups that are not coordinating with the city around events, such as Robert's group that are cleaning up various streets throughout the city, and theirs are being done at their own schedule, at their own availability, and that consists of walkers walking around with a bag and a picker, and that's being done whenever folks are able to.
May I add just one more comment? We need to open to all in the community. I think the system that the city is using is excluding minority people from participating. That to have actually the GNR didn't even provide an announcement, and it's not even in different languages. I mean that we have in our community. I have to tell you, in Takoma Park, we did that in 4 languages, and it was a fight. Quite frankly, it was a fight, and I can see that it is happening the same way here. To have an announcement in Spanish, French, in Takoma Park, we added Amharic, and it is a fight, and nobody is responding. That should not happen after, especially what I heard to start the session today. We are a welcoming community, but we have to show it, and we have to reach everybody. I mean, and we are not doing it right now. And the Martin Luther King Days of Service failure is exactly what is happening, because this kind of cold weather, we have that every year. I mean,
You know, and I think maybe being a little bit more proactive about selecting these events, and just for example, Prince George's County Growing Green with Pride is coming up. There's a county-wide acknowledgement of community cleanups and outdoor work on April 26, 2025. So this comes up every year, and perhaps this year we've got enough time to maybe coordinate and do some events in coordination with the county-wide effort. So if you can put that on your calendar and see if we can do that and pump it up a little bit more, that'll be great.
May I also point out that our website is currently translatable on the website into, I couldn't even hazard to guess how many languages. It has a full complement of languages. Whether or not the attachments included can also be translated is something that we could look into. And I appreciate the feedback, but I do want to put out that we are doing what we can to make the town and our communications as inclusive as possible. And I would appreciate that as feedback in the future to all of us so that we can make adjustments as needed.
I am a
Okay.
citizen from Belgium. We have three national languages,
I'm so sorry. Since you're not at the podium, we cannot, for accessibility purposes, we would need you at the podium. I'm not sure if we have more time available.
I think we've gotten your point, and I agree that we need to do all we can. And sometimes with these volunteer events, when there are 3 or 4 different things going on at the same time, it's understandable. Also, if the weather, if it's 20 degrees outside and it's an outdoor activity, sometimes that can be a disincentive. But let's try a little bit harder. Let's try and get coordinated a little bit better and move forward. So I appreciate your comments. Speaking of moving forward, let's go ahead and jump to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 11, an ordinance to repeal and replace Charter 2, Chapter 2, Article 4, ethics provision of the Greenbelt City Code. This is for second reading and adoption. Included in council's packet and the packet for the public is an ordinance from the council of the city, the lawyer, the legal counsel of the city of Greenbelt. And it's repealing and reenacting Chapter 2, Article 4, titled Ethics Provision of the City Code. The amendment updates the city's ethics laws to align with current state law. So, Mayor Pro Tem Weaver introduced this ordinance February 10th. It appeared again on the agenda with some slight modifications. So the bottom line with this modification is state laws change. So periodically, just as is the case with the charter, we needed to update the ordinance on ethics. So our ethics commission looked at it closely, made some recommendations, and they've been incorporated into the final draft. So since Mayor Pro Tem is not here, would someone like to introduce this for second reading and
Jenny has her
possible
hand up.
adoption? Yes.
I introduced for second reading an ordinance from the Council of the City of Greenbelt repealing and reenacting Chapter 2, Article 4, titled Ethics Provision of the City Code. This amendment will update the city's ethic laws to align with current state law.
Okay, so we've seen this 3 times at 3 previous meetings. Is there any discussion?
Second.
Okay, a second there. Any discussion? Okay, well, hearing none.
There's a hand raised.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you. Mr. Orleans, please. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. I'm aware that I'm repeating myself, but ethics, which we all want our council to exemplify, ethics is more than simply not taking money under the table or in a closed room. Ethics is a practice that extends to how one conducts themselves in office even when there is no money to be made. If council, or if anyone says that she or he believes in one thing and then acts contrary to that thing that she or he has said they believe in, that's an unethical practice. And when council, in this case, council, Greenbelt Council, says that it believes in transparency, and we'll say it over and over again, and then conducts itself behind closed doors, that's an unethical practice. And I would think that as council adopts a new ethics ordinance, it takes into consideration the fullest extent of its practice and that it practices what it preaches, and that is to be more transparent.
Mr. Orleans, you haven't spoken on the matter that is in front of us right now, which is specifically modifications to this ordinance. So
Well, I believe
thank you very much.
I have, Mr. Mayor.
Let's
and
go
I'm
ahead
suggesting that
and,
council
take
do more
the
than
vote.
simply
Madam Clerk,
vote
will
to
you call
approve
the roll,
language
please?
that's been presented to it. That it changes its nature.
Madam Clerk, will you
Mi-
call the roll, please?
Ms. Niesel?
Yes.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope? Mr. Roberts? Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And that's going to bring us to item number 12, which is a charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4, creation, qualifications, compensation of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council. And this is an item for first reading, so a second is not necessary. It's putting this into the public record. The council packet contains a resolution for charter amendment showing concerning council's compensation adjustment, fiscal year 2024. So it's recommended that this resolution be introduced for first reading. Would a council member care to introduce this?
I can read it.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce for first reading a resolution, a charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4 creation, qualifications, compensation of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council.
Thank you, thank you. So this is just codifying a change that was made in 2004 before the budget wasn't properly accounted for, but it was the first adjustment in council's salary since 2009.
7. No, 09. 9. 7.
Mr. Roberts?
What's the proposed future salary?
It's it's the adjustment we're already getting. Mr. Summerlin?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. This is, council adopted a,
Stay the same as it is now, is that what you're saying?
correct, is what you're currently getting paid now.
Okay.
Great.
So this will come up maybe at the next meeting. Probably at the next meeting.
It's scheduled for next meeting, correct?
So item number 13.
Mayor?
Well, actually, this is a first reading, so we're not going to take any discussion on this.
Just a question.
So item number 13,
On behalf of or against this motion,
item number 13.
I have a question of information.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on. Item number 13, Rapid Response Task Force, addressing economic impact and job loss from executive orders. So Councilmember Niesel requests that this item be added to the agenda. The recent disruptions in federal grants, layoffs, and proposed reductions in grants and contractor funding presents a significant challenge to Greenbelt's economic resilience. Additionally, the reassessment of government leases could have a long-term effect on both planned and existing office space in the city. Given Greenbelt's reliance on federal employment and associated industries, it's crucial that we develop a proactive, community-driven approach to economic resilience and job preservation. As the council discusses the creation of a task force, key considerations include: 1, formal structure, e.g. an official task force appointed by council or a council-led special committee, or a work group under the city manager's authority. Those are three scenarios. And number 2, whether the standing rules should be suspended to expedite the formation. So that's the agenda item. Councilmember Niesel, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes,
Or
thank
this
you.
agenda item?
Of course, as I'm sure we are all aware, the actions of the current administration have really thrown us for a loop. Each of us is getting approached on a daily basis, if I can speak for all of us, on what the city is doing to help its residents. And I am of two minds here. I am feeling as though the city could, I would love for it to, have a group of residents from all different sectors of life that is able to come together and identify the main pinch points, if you will, and so that they can bring those to us and the city can address them using our existing resources and new resources that we could identify. My other thought is that anything that we as a council can do to empower our residents to form groups such as mutual aid, job matching, food distribution, that we do so. So this, I brought this to the table today. along with Melissa Ann Ehrenreich, who sort of spearheaded this idea. And I would just love to discuss it as a council so that we can kind of figure out what we can do to best serve our residents during this tough time.
Yeah, I mean, this is an incredibly difficult time, and I think we are just at the very beginning of the impact. So many things have happened, and as individuals, thousands of federal employees have either been furloughed or laid off. Just getting the news, as of Friday. So, I mean, for the subcontractors and contractors that work with federal agencies, they are not getting reimbursed for services they've already provided. And they're very uncertain about what's going to happen next for the clients that they care for nonprofits. So, yeah, this is definitely an all hands on deck situation. And we do need to approach it in many different ways. One of the ways is by engaging our residents and allowing them, empowering them to identify challenges and solutions. Some things the city needs to do on its own. Some have to do with external relations, just working with our county counterparts and state counterparts and federal delegation. So it's going to be a long journey. And I think to expedite things rapidly, you've laid out 3 possible ways of moving forward. So I think I see a couple of people here in the room who may have a few ideas about how to move forward. And of course, Melissa Ehrenreich actually sent an email about this. And I'd like to invite you, Melissa, to the podium to speak.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Ann Ehrenreich. I live at 23D Ridge Road in Greenbelt, Maryland. I guess this is my 23rd year here in this community. So one of the things that I have been observing actually before the change of this administration is some weakening in our community fabric in terms of volunteerism, engagement. There are some organizations that are thinner than they should be. And I think that some of the things that we think of as, steady are not quite as steady. And I will say that one of the observations that I made was during the whole episode where our career firefighters were pulled out and the lack of resilience of volunteers underneath, right, to pick us up when we really needed them. But this has definitely accelerated that process, and really thinking through how we approach the next couple of years, but also what our strengths are, what our assets are, what we can do instead of feeling helpless, because we're not helpless. We have great city staff. We have city amazing resources. We live next to a national park. We have literally thousands of residents. We have expertise. We have some of like the best technological minds probably in the country who live right here. So the idea of this task force, and I had to look back because I wrote this email and then I was like, I forget what this means, but I called it the Collaborative Opportunities for Resilience and Enduring Solutions, CORES for short, because we all love acronyms. But the idea is really that we come together, and in conversations that I've been having over the last couple of weeks, it feels like residents are starting to come together, right? Like the initial shock and awe has started to ebb a little bit, and people are starting to think about, okay, now what can we do? And CORES would really be a place for people to come together. I feel really strongly personally that the city and city staff need to be a part of this process, because in my conversations, we're getting to places in these conversations where it's really obvious that we're going to come up with barriers, either at the city level or the county level. Mostly those are the things that are popping, where we're going to need both council's support to kind of navigate those barriers, but then also city staff support to navigate them as well. And really think collectively about our resources. And that includes everything from You know, really, I think we can do bulk purchasing in really unique ways. I think we have resources that we're not currently using as much as we could in terms of the interfaith community, you know, city lands, all sorts of things. And we might get to some places where permitting is going to require you all, right, to step in and think about what structures can we put into place. So the idea for CORES, just briefly, is that we would convene folks, totally opt in, but for the next, let's say, 90 days, we would be sitting and identifying solutions across a whole series of areas. Everything from food to housing to public safety to workforce development to energy. I know that's a pain point right now. And then we'd identify opportunities and recommendations that would be non-binding. So we don't have to do anything that we don't want to do, but it would give people a place to start having those conversations, to start finding each other, and also create the opportunity for us to say, here's what we need. Here's what we need from the city. Here's what we need from each other, for businesses, for nonprofits, for residents, et cetera. So just a space for us to be positive, to use our own agency, and kind of imagine what we could create here in Greenbelt, right? And not let this sort of overwhelming sense of chaos cloud our sense of what's possible and where Greenbelt could go, because we do have control of our own destiny. So, and we could do some amazing things. I really believe that. The last thing I just wanted to say is I wanted to keep this process, my idea was to keep this process relatively rapid, because it feels like we're in a rapid place. So even the ability for us to articulate, you can start to see it on Greenbelters. People are starting to say, how are we going to come together, right? So just the ability for our residents to be moving forward in a positive direction in this first 100 days, I think could be enormously helpful for us all. But also, it's not a meeting. It's not a meeting that meets every month. It's really a group that's going to roll up their sleeves, find each other, identify solutions, and then some of them will stick, some of them won't. But that's okay. You know, at least we're generating ideas and we're identifying really what could happen. So thank you. That's all I wrote.
No. Thank you for bringing this forward. I mean, it's a great concept, and the idea of 90-day or 60 days or 90-day, just in paneling of community dialogue and conversation that's focused on first identifying issues and then just brainstorming and generating solutions or ideas. The tricky part is how we go about just. It seems like a part of this is just the city's imprimatur, just having the city actively as a part of this. And one thing that I'm concerned about is I wouldn't want to preclude any council member's ability to be actively engaged in this. And just knowing a little bit about how groups usually work, it probably wouldn't be one big group talking about things. It'd be a lot of subgroups. So if it was a council, a traditional task force, that would make it difficult for more than 3 council members to be involved in any one place. And I'd like to avoid that somehow. So the scenario of having the convening done under the auspices of the city manager, that's another way that we could go. But the engagement piece, I mean, it seems like the theme of the meeting tonight is community engagement, and how do we, and I know you've been passionate about trying to find ways to, get people involved, get people talking face to face and taking control of their own destiny, sort of. So I think there are a lot of things that residents can do. I think there's some things that only the city can do, just in terms of sort of working with our external relationships and trying to make certain, working with companies, nonprofits, and other entities, homeowners associations or cooperatives directly. I don't know, council, what do you think?
Rodney had his hand up first.
Oh, Mr. Roberts.
I had a couple questions. I
Sure.
was wondering, do you have any idea of how our population that works for the federal government, how they're spread out? I mean, do we have mostly people working at NASA, or more people
So,
downtown, or
yeah,
is, I mean,
I actually think that's a big question. I know that there have been county level impacts right now in terms of, like, I know that, like, there's 10% of Peachy County that are federally, that are workers, right? That are federal workers, yeah.
Right.
How it factors in Greenbelt, I don't have those exact numbers. All I have are anecdotes of people who are getting laid off, and not just federal workers. But I mean, I work for a nonprofit, right? So those grants and the freezes are starting to trickle down to people who are not even in the federal public sector, right? Yeah. So I think it's going to be widespread.
I haven't heard any talk about NASA as far as cutting there.
The only thing that I've heard is that
I mean,
that there has been DOJ staff, particularly from the GSA, there to identify how that space is being used or not used. I have heard that they've laid off all of their DEI staff already, including people that I know who are married to Greenbelt families. So, I think it's starting to touch that. Whether or not and how the overhead suggestions for research grants impact, it is crazy. So it just keeps trickling through. So it's not, for me, it's not a question of if we'll be affected. We are being affected. It's a question of how we respond to those.
I don't think it's just a matter of jobs either. I think it's a matter of a lot of other things. Federal property. I don't know how many people were here when Ronald Reagan was elected. I was here. I saw as soon as he was elected, the sign went up on BARC, auction for sale. They were going to sell the whole place off.
Yeah.
And so those types of actions would have a dramatic effect on our quality of life here. So whether they had a job or not, but this time it seems like, in Reagan's era, he didn't go and decimate the government workers, but that's what is happening now. And it's kind of ironic that the richest man in the world is cutting people off that are getting by in life.
And it's also
pretty sad.
It's also an amazing thing that Greenbelt was formed on, like, the spirit of cooperation. Granted, formed with lots of challenges when it was formed in terms of being fully segregated, but
early on there were a lot of government
we can lean
employees,
we can lean in there. So I think that's the question, which is what's the right
I think
direction.
that you and other private people should run with this, and it should be that way. When you involve the council, I think it will slow you down. Then you can work with the council, and then the council can do things that you need done that you can't do, sending letters to our representatives or whatever it is, or but I think this should really be from the people that are being affected, because I think that way you'll be the most effective that way. So.
Yeah.
City staff, we've got a real good sense of the composition, the employment composition of the city. As far as people that directly work for the federal government. But where it gets very, very murky is the contractors and subcontractors and people working on grants.
Yeah, I think I agree with Emmett and with Rodney, and I think it should be a community-driven. I think your idea is excellent, and I think we really need it. I think that's definitely, I'm definitely for that, and if there's any way we can help. It is easier if it's not a city official, committee, so to speak. But we still can work together. It's not to say like we can't work together. Of course, we would help in any way possible. And the other thought I have, I'm not sure how big the workload would be that we're adding to city staff already. I'm not sure. That's something maybe Mr. Salmaron can speak to, but that just came to mind. But I think it's a great idea.
So I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions back. But can I ask a question?
What is council's will? Would you like to suspend the?
I have just a comment first, and that is that yes, there are so many things that individuals can do, And where I think the city can really take a firm stance is by doing something like empowering the city manager to form his own working group so that we can actually hear from the residents, because there's only so much that our city staff is aware of without hearing from the actual residents. And Ms. Pope, or Councilmember Pope, I apologize. You have stated that however the city can help, you're willing to, and the city can help by empowering citizens by giving them a place to come forward. And so I think that this can really be a dual, what am I looking for? A way we can work together on this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I totally agree with that. If I don't want to come across like I don't like your idea. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's great, and we need that. And like you said, you know, we kind of like we're very thin on volunteerism and etc. In all throughout with anybody you talk to, you know, the issue is volunteers and people don't have time and people don't connect throughout. That's another issue. So I think it's great. I'm willing, you know, to provide assistance, whatever assistance we can give, and is feasible. That's not an issue. I just don't know if I want to make it as formal as to make it a city task force, so to speak.
Okay.
That kind of goes with what Rodney was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I guess the question that I would have, because like I'm just an individual, is what access would I have to city resources? Because you do have city facilities for meeting purposes. You have city Zooms, you know, all of those things that the city itself, all the resources that the city has, individual residents don't.
Right.
So
and I think that would be something that our city manager would be able to coordinate, I would say.
Yeah, well, you know, I think we're sort of those resources that you just mentioned are easy, you know, and they can happen, you know, directly through the city manager. They could happen through one of our existing advisory boards or community groups. So one of the community relations advisory board or any of the advisory boards have access to city facilities, you know, given that they are available, you know, if they're not booked by somebody else, you know. And as far as the Zoom meetings, those are all things. But, you know, the city, city administration, we have a lot on our plates right now. And you know, it's not always, as Mayor Davis was always fond of saying, it's like the little duck up there swimming along, but really is paddling furious. She used to say that all the time. So, I mean, the city manager, I know he's out talking with nonprofits, he's talking with businesses, he's talking with NASA and other. So yeah, we have a lot going on right now, but it's all hands on deck. We need to get everybody engaged as much as we possibly can. Council member.
And I'm sorry, but I'm still getting messages that the sound is not very good, and some people were not able to hear you.
Oh.
So that's why I was on the.
If you could speak into the mic, as
am I?
You are. I can hear you.
Okay.
But we don't know. I'm not clear how. I know it's getting out. The sound is going out, but.
And if by some chance there's some technical difficulties, I've learned that if we can hear it in the room here, we'll be able to broadcast it. It's being recorded, so it'll go out on YouTube afterwards.
Correct.
But, so Member McKinney.
So one of the things I would ask is, I do think having it be a community-led task force is important, but I do think logistically speaking, having the support of the city will help to make some of the actions that you identify quickly implementable. That's a word.
I'd say it is.
So if I think that will help. I think it would be helpful to know, and you don't have to answer this right now, but what are the specific resources and things that you might need? So if we are simply talking about, you know, being able to have access to Zoom, be able to, you know, publish things on the website, I would think that that's kind of low-hanging fruit. And I'm guessing that that's what you're saying. I don't anticipate that you're talking for additional work that the city staff has to do, because I think the entire intent of having this task force is to help the city to not have to take on additional work that they have to do and to help try to be that funnel. So maybe it would be helpful to have just kind of a initial list of what the request would be from city, so that the city manager will know if it is going to be a city manager sort of supported committee. He'll kind of know what to expect.
Okay.
So I think there's sort of a balance between all hands on deck and just kind of quickly figuring out the scope a little bit better so we can identify what resources are low-hanging fruit and what resources is. Believe me, the city staff is very, very busy doing very important things around what's going to happen because, you know, it's difficult time. Yeah. Please.
Oh, I'm just listening.
Well, we've got, yeah, council member.
So thank you, Ms. Ehrenreich, for bringing this to us. I think this is a great idea. I think there are a lot of people in the city who are looking for ways to plug in and help, and they just sort of don't know how to do that. So I think this is going to be really great. And I like the idea of the city manager impaneling a task force, just because if you need anything, you can check in with him, or if you guys have an idea, you can bounce it off of him, because like maybe he's like, oh, we're kind of already doing that, but maybe we could do it this way. Would be a little different, because you may not know everything that the city. You probably don't know everything that the city does. But I also don't. To the mayor's point, the city manager is very busy, and city staff is really busy. So, I just wanted to check in with Mr. Samaron about his thoughts on this idea and how he sees it. How he sees his role or staff's role in this kind of rapid task force.
Would you like to speak to
If
that?
I can ask. Sorry.
We're certainly going to see the impacts across several industries, and it's hard to predict all the impact. Certainly, we have to do something. I think we're going to see income loss. Some of the things that I'm concerned with is, with the state being the fourth largest recipient of federal jobs, we're going to have a major impact. Is it going to be short term or long term? We don't know. So I think we have to be prepared, or we need to do as much as we can to see if there's a way organically that we can create more jobs. The state has one of the lowest growing GDPs in the country. That's no secret. We rank 48th in economic development. And while all of our peers around us, DC, Virginia, Pennsylvania, are growing, the state is not. So this major job loss and lack of funding that's going to come to states going to have, I don't know who can predict what's going to happen, but I know certainly it's going to add to our troubles as it is. The state has a $3 billion deficit. The county has a $170 million deficit. The city had a $4.5 million deficit. So this is going to add to our an impact to our economy. Just earlier today, I talked about how our property tax revenue is expected to increase, but that's not anticipating potential defaults that we may have, that people lose their jobs, and how are they going to pay the rising cost. So there are things that we may not have. We may have little influence on what's happening in the executive office in the White House, but there are other things that maybe we could help alleviate the strain. One of the things that I spoke with Councilmember McKinney is it the opportunity to bring back victory gardens, as there were in World War I and World War II, as a way of creating a local food source? And if the community has an interest in doing so, what can the local government make available? What public land do we have available that we can make a resource for a community, have it be a community resource. And what Ms. McKinney, Councilmember McKinney asked me, well, what could local government do? Well, we could buy seeds. We can make the space available. We can see what collaborative partnership we can do to grow more tomatoes. And I know it's such a simple example, but I think for some it may go a long way. With the mayor, we had previously, I think jokingly, had talked about pushing on the county to allow chickens to be raised in the county. Now, as crazy as that,
Seen the price of eggs.
I
this
know.
week, but it's like $11. Who doesn't?
I know that's what reminds me that, you know, maybe a year ago we were joking about it, but now it seems to be so real, right? That maybe backyard chickens doesn't sound like a bad idea. So those are examples of things locally that maybe we need to explore to create opportunities for local food production, but also create community. Because Melissa, I think that's what you're talking about too. That's also what you're talking about with cleanups. But how do we create community? And that leads to resiliency, that leads to cooperation and the local creative economy.
Right. And, just being able to work hand in hand, we have so many incredibly talented and experienced and credentialed individuals living in Greenbelt. Being able to empower some of them to maybe work with Greenbelt Cares to actually facilitate more groups to talk about what folks can do to heal themselves or to make it to the next step. So we're already doing a lot. We need to find out a way to kind of ramp everything up because it's just so hard. Mr. Lamond, you had a comment? I think you can go to that microphone to your left. You have to push the button, though.
If you could check
Sounds
the
pretty
button
tough.
and if it's green, it's on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Now it's working.
My name is Tom Lamond, and I live in 14 Court, Laurel Hill. And I'm going to address the question that Councilmember Roberts asked about who's being affected and how. A month ago, I was 5 years away from retiring from a 20-year career with USAID. Last Wednesday, I got a notice that my contract is terminated. They'll pay me through the 6th of March. But after that, it's over. And not only is it over, but the organization is gone. And that's 10,000 people who work in one small agency within the federal government. We were the world's largest funder of international development and humanitarian assistance. So all of the nonprofits and the NGOs that work in that sector are losing their funding. So all of those people are going to be out of work. And that also means that the sector has exploded. I don't have a place to go to get another job. My colleagues don't have a place to go to get another job, not in our field. So that's the reality of it. And I'm also in communication with a lot of people now, people who are in the Department of Agriculture. They're worried about their jobs. That's another sector that provides a lot of funding to a lot of organizations. And when that explodes, those people aren't going to have any place to find work. So NASA, I've heard rumors that they want to move Goddard to Alabama because it's a red state and they're gonna put money where they want to put money. I question whether the FBI is going to build a new building in Greenbelt.
Right.
Yeah, they're not. So what that means is that there's probably going to be an exodus because people aren't going to be able to find the work that they are used to doing or want to do, and they're not going to be able to afford to live in this area anymore.
Right.
So there's going to be an exodus from Greenbelt, and that's going to affect our housing
prices.
values. So I just and I will tell you, a month ago, I would have gone to any restaurant or store in Greenbelt and I would have freely spent my money. I can't do that anymore because I don't know where the next paycheck is going to come from. So it's not only going to affect housing, it's not only going to affect the unemployment rate, it's going to affect spending within Greenbelt. So I just want to make sure I hear it every day. Everybody who approaches me asks me, how are you doing? What's going on now? And it's the same story. I don't know. The future's unclear. I don't know if I have a future here. I don't know if I'm going to be living in Greenbelt a year from now, because I might have to think about what other opportunities are out there. So that's the effect. And I think it's a great idea to bring people together. And I think that's one of the things I love about Greenbelt. And I'm really happy that this is happening. But we have to take it seriously. And it's because it's blowing up right now. And I'm still getting a paycheck through March 6th, but everything's going to change after March 6th. I no longer have that paycheck. I still have a little bit of a comfort zone. So thank you for asking that question, and thank you for bringing up solutions.
Well,
But we really have to take this seriously.
I'd like everyone to know that this problem of people being priced out of our community is one that has been going on for quite some time. This is not a new phenomenon. This is going to make it way, way worse. No doubt about that. I mean, what you just said, I thank you for that answer, because people really need to hear the reality of this whole mess that we're in. And,
yeah, we're just on the tip of it right now.
Tip of the iceberg. Mr. Lamont.
And I know how it is, because I'm self-employed, and even my work is very slow right now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's affecting everybody.
And we're
Thank
all
you.
interdependent. People who are self-employed or dependent. So no, thank you for sharing your situation, because a lot of other people are in the same boat. So I'm not kidding when I say we appreciate this is all hands on deck. We really don't know what's going to happen next. We're working on the budget, but there are so many factors that are involved in the budget that go back to people's livelihood and to the organizations that they work with, be it the federal government, be it with government contractors, be it with nonprofits that support the community but get grants. It's just really, it's something we all have to work on together. Ms. Rosenthal, please.
Good evening, Council. I'm Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. I'm sorry that I was late. There was also the New Deal Cafe had their board meeting tonight. But so I think my comments are still relevant. I guess I'm an old-time Greenbelter now, that it feels like we've come full circle. I'm going to mention some things maybe none of you have ever heard about this before, that around 2012 or a little earlier, the Greenbelt Climate Action Network had been having simplicity circles, then sustainability circles, then food simplicity circles, and climate change circles. And then they started having what were called resilience circles. And we were studying people like a gentleman named Eisenstein. I can't remember his first name. Charles Eisenstein, who talked about sacred economics. And then we were studying your money or your life. So basically, at that time, in 2012 and 13, we were talking about resilience. We were actually mostly doing it hypothetically. What would you do if you didn't have a lot of money? What would you do if the food supply was cut off? What would you do if it was peak oil and there was no more energy? So we were actually discussing all that, and there's actually was a movement called Transition Towns, where all over the world, people were dealing with what do you do when you have no money, no food, and no energy. And actually, Greenbelt became a transition town. We also started a time bank where we exchange without money. And apparently, like I studied Charles Eisenstein. Apparently, I just found out yesterday, there's someone named Robin Greenfeld who's like a new person who's talking about frugonomics. It's how can you be frugal in your economics. And the Greenbelt Time Bank, for the first time in 5 years, is going to be having a social where people are going to be talking. Anyway, I guess with all this, what I'm saying, maybe I need to join the task force, because we've come full circle. People have been talking about this since 2012. Maybe you were involved with the reskilling, where we were teaching each other how to make cheese, how to sharpen your knives, how to garden, how to, there's a lady on Laurel Hill, she gardens everybody's front yard, and they all get or she farms everyone's front yard, and they get a share of the CSA, so the victory gardens, all of that. So, like, out of no disrespect, but like this has been discussed actually in prior generations of people who've been facing this, and there are many, many solutions that I think we already have the wisdom here in Greenbelt to attack a lot of it. So it wouldn't only fall to the government, it would fall to the people. I mean, Melissa, I don't know, I wasn't here when you started, but you were probably involved with a lot of this reskilling. We learned how to can food and dry food, and it was in the community center. People were coming and learning all of this. So that's why many of us got on wind energy and we got on solar energy, because that was all part of transition town philosophy. I would teach courses in Your Money, Your Life, how to live so that actually you could retire at age 40 because you would have saved enough money that you didn't need to work the rest of your life. And I do budget counseling through the Greenbelt Time Bank. So you pay me an hour instead of $1, and I can sit down with you. Any federal worker that's trying to figure out how they're going to get by on much less money, I'm happy to sit down with them. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't talk to them about their investments or the stock market, but I can help people figure out how can you live with less. Michael Hartman also has on his car, live simply, because that's the philosophy we follow in our household. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council member.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for everyone's comments. I just want to redirect us back to the topic that we were talking about is sort of how we would go about forming this rapid response task force. What are the city's responsibilities? How can the city I think we're all in agreement, it seems like, on the council that this should be citizen-led, which I think Ms. Ehrenreich is in agreement as well. So I think now we really just need to figure out how does the city plug in and help in the most effective way to help move them forward.
Yeah, I would concur. I think it's going to take a little time just to figure out what resources, the low-hanging fruit, just a first step. And I think convening the group just in an inclusive way so that you're getting a wide variety of input, you got to do that. So the sooner the better. So I guess we need to check the calendar and just have a little more conversation to figure out how we can quickly mobilize this initiative and just get things off the ground.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, Councilmember McKinney, please. One of the reasons that I would love to make a decision tonight is so that we can continue to be as rapidly responsive as possible. I truly worry that if we are not able to come to a conclusion tonight, this could drag on for 2 or more weeks, and that simply is not really time that we have right now. I do not ever try to come towards situations from a scarcity mindset, but at this time, we really do need all hands on deck as soon as possible. There's been a 30% increase in DC houses on the market as of last week. That speaks to Mr. Lamont's note about what the housing could look like here. My daughter is a Girl Scout. Even Girl Scout cookies are not selling well. So there is a huge economic problem already happening in Greenbelt, and I really hope that we can come to a decision tonight on how the city can support our residents moving forward by including them in the discussion.
Councilmember McKinney.
Yeah, I would agree with trying to move it forward quickly. I would be in favor of making sure that it is a city supported group. And the only thing I would ask for is just being very clear about what resources are needed and just having a conversation with the city manager so that we're not overtaxing. But like I said, I think the original intent is for this to really be a community-driven effort. And so you're taking all the steps to not add additional support to the city staff.
So a city-sanctioned entity that's convened by the residents with some support from the city, just in terms of a place to go ahead and do this and publicizing it, is that I think that's about all we can do tonight.
Because the city manager, any resident can make an appointment to meet with the city manager technically. He's here for that, so.
Correct.
That wouldn't be a restriction.
Right, but I don't want to put this, I want the city manager, city administration to enable this to happen and to provide whatever support is determined. But I don't want to say, okay, everybody go and meet with the city manager. You know, I don't think that that's the way forward. I don't think that's the fastest way forward because there's only so many hours in the day.
Well, no, I was just implying that, like, if Melissa and the group are meeting and then they come to a point where they're like, oh, we should talk to the city manager now, they can schedule a meeting with them if they get to a
And
point where they think that's necessary.
It's not coming to a standstill. I think you can still, you still plan it out or kind of think about what resources you would need from us. I mean, that's still, you can do.
Well, what do you think, Melissa? What do you think?
I think that I would welcome the city manager's support and assistance because I also have a full-time job and I'm a mom of 3 kids. So as long as that is the intent that the city is supporting residents to move this through, and that if we need resources, that's okay, and that we're free to ask, and that also there's clear expectation that if there are city activities that, you know, residents would benefit from knowing about, that information flow is happening, that's great. That's great. If it's us meeting seriously in New Deal Cafe, trying to find space, right, and calling up Josue on the phone, like that, I just don't think that's going to be as effective to get to the, you know, just for Tom's, you know, example, to get to the scale that we really need based on the impact. So that's all I'm asking for is like not just go forth and do good, Melissa, but also, and to the residents, obviously not just me, but you know, you're going to be supported by everything that the city can support you in that's reasonable, and so that we're not swinging alone.
So, and along with that, so I, for one, and I know my peers on council want to be actively engaged, so it shouldn't, somehow council should be in the loop there. We shouldn't be driving the process because then we're restricted by open meeting act things and publicizing. But, you know, you should talk with the city administration. That might be Mr. George, might be Mr. Samarone, it might be any number, Giselle. And that's why we need to kind of think this through just a little bit to move forward. Mr. Roberts?
Well, I think we just need to pass a motion that the city will provide meeting space and technical support to said group or committee that is working on this issue.
Well, that sounds reasonable. Do you want to make a motion?
I think that's a reasonable.
You're making the motion?
That's a motion. Yeah. But maybe
Ms. Niesel, did you want to
maybe
make that
Ms.
motion?
Niesel would like to make that motion.
Oh, I'll allow Councilmember Roberts to make the motion. I would ask that included in that support would be advertising through our channels, that's including Facebook and the e-blasts, because many community groups use that, and I want to make sure that that is allowed right off the bat. And posts in if we can get it in the news review as well, so that it's advertised in all the same channels that city events and city affiliated events are.
I'll second that. Okay. Any additional discussion? Mr. Orleans, you had your hand up.
I apologize, among others, to Melissa, because when she first was outlining the name of this organization, CORD for short, I didn't get it all, so I hope she'll inform me of this later. I don't see any reason why council couldn't, as an emergency, if necessary, recognize CORD as a recognition group, thereby enabling it to have the use of city resources. I would think you could do that tonight if you think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good idea. But I wanted to suggest that some of us in this room, certainly in this town, are members of organizations beyond just the city of Greenbelt. I note in the calendar question that will be coming up later, council wants to take more time off to attend the National League of Cities Congressional Conference, which I think is a good and necessary thing to do. And I will note that it was stated here recently that someone had remembered that former council member Jay Davis in response to someone suggesting that council could go to a NLC meeting and simply move a resolution to one thing or another, that resolutions have to be submitted in advance. Well, there was no real response at that time to that suggestion, but I'm wondering, since it's on your calendar, has anybody from Greenbelt or anybody from a municipality member of NLC in Prince George's County or the state of Maryland or across the nation, has anybody put forward a resolution for the National League of Cities Congressional Conference for a larger fight back than simple resilience? I'm in favor of local resilience and resistance. But some of us belong to organizations beyond that, such as a local political club of any party. Have local political clubs put forward resolutions as to how to respond to what is a national, in fact, an international crisis, not just a local crisis affecting Greenbelters who have lost their jobs or prospectively will lose their jobs. Has any local political club done that? There's much more that we can do, although I'm in favor of a locally recognized, officially
Well, thank you.
recognized
Thank you.
resilience group.
I don't think, Ryan, I know you don't understand the resolution process of the National League of Cities. There's a little bit more to it. But I can assure you that that's going to be, if not, it's going to be the primary topic of our convening there in town. So there's a motion on the floor. Mr. Rand.
Yes.
You just have to push the button if it's not green.
It should be on.
Is this on? Yeah, Bob Rand, ITT. First, this is a wonderful and creative idea. The petition asked for an endorsement from the council. Could the council simply endorse the project, and that would imply the kind of logistical support that we've been asking about? It's kind of like a simple statement, but maybe it conveys a significant amount of support.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what the motion is, more or less, although it's not, we didn't say we endorse, we can put together, we can draft something to that effect. But can you repeat the motion, please?
Motion is to provide meeting space and technical support and advertising and all that kind of stuff.
Did you take it as a friendly amendment to add the word endorse in there?
I don't know if this is something we endorse or I don't know about that. I think
I don't know if the endorsement holds the weight
we're
of.
endorsing it by providing resources.
Right, exactly.
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It is inherent that we're endorsing it by providing the resources, and I think we want to be clear about providing those resources, and putting that, I think, in writing is important.
Being clear, but also kind of thinking it through as how we can best do it. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Hey, so, we're working really, really hard on trying to take a look at what's going to happen next, as is our federal delegation. And I just want to announce our Congressman Glenn Ivey and County Council Chair Jolene Ivey are sponsoring a public servant summit for federal employees this Saturday, March the 1st, from 10 to 12 at the Greenbelt Middle School. We've been kind of working with Congressman Ivey to make that happen. So I believe Michelle Singletary from the Washington Post is going to be there, and Rob Shriver from Democracy Forward. It should be a good program. It's at the middle school. There's a registration requirement, and we'll have the notice with the QR code up on our website tomorrow. Mr. Lamont?
It's out today. We've been promoting.
I just want to say I saw that, and I did register for it, but I haven't heard anything back from them. It says that you will get that they'll tell you where it's going to be once you register. So
It's going to be at the middle school,
Okay.
Greenbelt Middle School.
I was going to reach out to them just to ask if there was going to be any other follow-up, because they didn't follow up after I registered. So just wanted to point that out.
I think they just finalized things today, more or less. Yeah, please.
Well, I believe that they were waiting until a little bit closer to the event to give everyone the location.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's out now. It's at Greenville Middle School. We will be providing some support for the event. Parking, looking to have it at Beltway Plaza. The city will be providing a shuttle to get folks to and from the parking lot into the school. The school has very limited parking, so we expect a large turnout, more than the parking spaces can accommodate at Greenbelt Middle School.
Yeah, thank you so much. And let's see, there's one more question before we move on. Ms. Rosenthal.
Just a further comment about that. I'm very happy to say that due to Vijay Parameswaran, 13 of us met with Congressman Glenn Ivy's, well, not with him, but with his chief of staff today. And we were aware that Ms. Chandra Andrews, I guess, had sent out the notice of the summit. And we asked them, like, why do you have to register and why is the location not given? It sounded like some kind of a security thing. And they said, no, we actually didn't know where we were meeting and we didn't want to wait till we knew to send it out. So they said, yes, it's at Greenbelt Middle School, but it doesn't say that. So perhaps Ms. Chandra Andrews will just send out a update to let people know it's not a secret. And Tom, yeah, that it's not a secret. They didn't actually know where they were meeting when they sent it out, and that's why the registration is a little odd. It says you'll receive the location after you register. It's nothing secret. But anyway, it was really nice being able to talk with the staff, and they answered a lot of questions. For those of you that want to know, I can tell you afterwards, what their plan is for the federal government.
Well, thank you so much. So let's see. At this time, we got to move on to the next agenda item. It's past 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So this would be item number 14.
Review of state and county legislation.
Review of state and county legislation. So we're in the middle of the legislative session on the state level and on the county level. There's an ongoing process. There's a number of bills that we've been tracking. Some we are actively interested in supporting, others we sometimes oppose. We testify when we can down in Annapolis or in Largo. So I want to compliment staff on the information that they've provided, which is a listing of bills that we've talked about in aggregate. And I was talking with City Manager Summerone. So we really need, we're getting some good information from our legislative liaison, Mr. Carrington. He's actively, he's in Annapolis all the time, and he's sending us good information. So I could use a little additional help just in creating a spreadsheet, sort of like what you have here, but actually adding a column for the ones that we have sent a letter in already or testified, and ones that we've decided not to go ahead with. I sit on the Maryland Municipal League Legislative Committee, and every Wednesday we talk through bills that have come up, and we're just about at the point in the session, the crossover point, where it will be very, very difficult to add any new bills. But a couple were added today and yesterday. And Councilmember Pompey, through her leadership on the PGCMA Legislative Committee, co-hosts a call every Monday morning with other municipal leaders talking about bills that we want to support. So the information that we've got here, I've identified a few bills that we might want to weigh in on. And Councilmember Pompey, you also have some bills. Would you like to say anything about the stage that we're at in the process, just in terms of hearings and the crossover date and things like that?
I don't know what the crossover, I don't know the exact crossover date, but
It's coming up pretty
we
soon.
are
right now.
halfway through at this point. We're halfway through, and there can be new bills introduced, but it's actually, there are huge hurdles at this point for any new bill that's introduced. Most of them get stuck in rules at this point, but you can still introduce bills. But at this point, we're sort of, now what we're doing is we're really watching bills to see if they pass their respective chambers and if they make it to crossover, and then sort of tracking what happens to them once they get to the other side, how they're amended and changed at that point, because that does start to happen too.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, and when you talk about the Rules Committee, it's like once you get to a certain point in the session, you can't introduce a new bill without going through the Rules Committee. Now, we're kind of fortunate because our delegate, Ann Healy, is the chair of the Rules Committee. So, with Delegate Nicole Williams being the chair of the Prince George's County delegation, which, the House delegation, we're pretty well positioned. So I've got 4 or 5 bills. Jenny, council member, do you have some bills that you wanted to mention in particular?
I think the one in particular I just wanted to mention was it's Delegate Williams' bill, the Public Safety Immigration Enforcement Bill, aka the Maryland Values Bill, HB 1222. And that's very similar. Let me pull up the text for everyone. I'm sorry, I don't have that up right now. So this bill, am I looking at the right one? Yes, would require an employee of a state or local correctional facility and law enforcement agent to detain an individual not lawfully present in the United States who has been convicted of a certain crime of violence and transfer that individual to a federal immigration authorities under certain circumstances, prohibiting the state, a unit of local government, a county sheriff, or an agency, officer, employee, or agent of the state, or a unit of local government from entering into certain immigration enforcement agreements, et cetera. So, this would maintain the way in which, our standing order for the city of Greenbelt is now, is that, if ICE requests that assistance in detaining someone who has a violent felony warrant against them, they can participate, but it would not allow them to do anything other than that. So it's basically codifying that into state law. Would you agree that that's
That's
an
a pretty good
appropriate reading?
That's a pretty good summary of
Yeah.
the bill.
So that's coming up, I think, it'll be, its hearing is on the 27th. So that's coming up.
So we're not really gonna. That's coming up so fast. I don't think we have
We're not
time
gonna have
to
do
submit
anything, but
something on that.
It's something to, to watch and to know. I think there was another bill.
I've got a couple of bills.
Go ahead. There was one more that I wanted to bring up, but you go ahead.
Yeah, there's a bill. Councilmember Pope brought this up. It's Senate Bill 893, and it's entitled "Insurance Enforcement: Impaired Entities, Homeowners Insurance Policies, and Unfair Claim Practices Revisions." So this is a bill that actually, our homeowners associations are cooperative. Are facing a lot of challenges with insurance costs going up a lot, and this particular bill would help residents. It would increase safeguards due to stricter regulatory oversight, ensuring that insurers remain financially sound and capable of fulfilling claims. So, in some cases, there have been homeowners associations or condominium associations that think that their insurance coverage is enough to protect them from a lawsuit, but if the insurance company is not financially sound, it doesn't work like that. So I think this is a bill. The hearing is going to be on the 5th of March, so this is something that we have an opportunity to weigh in on. Ms. Pope was mentioning that the CVI, which manages more properties in Greenbelt than any other entity, has actually brought this up for council to consider. We need to kind of share it with GHI to make sure that it's something that they would be supportive of. But I would like to actually vote to support this bill. I think it's a good bill.
I would appreciate that because it affects everyone, the condo associations. The condo that I own over at Charlestown Village, last year we increased our condo fees by 15%, and we had to do it again this year. The insurance costs have quadrupled, have exploded for the overall coverage that we must have. We must have this coverage. We have no way of saying, no, we're not going to take it. You must have it. It's mandated. So we have no way around it. And twice now, two years in a row, 15%. So some people are up, not just that they have to pay their mortgage, possibly now lose their job, but now they have like condo fees going $500-600 a month plus mortgage. I mean, it's just, how much longer can you just pass the buck on? You can't really do that, right? I mean, it's unbearable. And it's not just Charlestown Village. It's also it's
unsustainable.
It's unsustainable. Yeah. And these insurance companies are not regulated. they can do whatever they want. And this has been going on for a few years. We've been talking about to our delegates and everyone about this. So this is actually the first time that I've seen any mentioning of, someone's trying to willing to do something. And so that's why I would hope that we all can support this bill, because I don't even know what's going to happen next year. We're going to do another we almost raised it by 20%.
It's unsustainable for people on a
can't do
fixed
that.
income.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do, I'd like to motion that we support this contingent upon getting some input from GHI to see if it's something that works for them, because the hearing's on the 5th. We won't have another opportunity to really meet.
Was that a motion? And I second the motion.
Motion second. Mr. Roberts, please.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to respond to that, $500 or $600. My co-op fee is $871, and I know a lot of people,
It's
it's over $1,000 for,
It's
anybody in a brick or a block, it's
Yep.
over $1,000
Yeah.
a
It
month.
is, it's,
And,
yeah.
I don't see them, having anything in sight, that they're gonna stop.
Right,
A
so-
lot of this, I hate to lay it on the state, but it's on the state, because every time a house gets sold for, a high price, they look at that and say, okay, we raise everybody's taxes up, and it's just, so they just justify it by saying, oh, well, the value of the house is more, so now you have to pay more taxes. Well, you're right, people are at the limit, and that's probably one reason why the Maryland is rated at, 48th in the economic activity, is because a lot of people can't even afford to live here, and a lot of people are getting kicked out because they can't afford to live here anymore, and it's really ironic in Greenbelt, because Greenbelt was a place for people of moderate means, and to have a high quality of life and an affordable place to live, and it's not that anymore. Because of how we treat our housing. We treat our housing as just another commodity to be, go up and up and up so people can make more and more money. And I don't know how, as a society, we think that that's going to be a sustainable way in the long term, because when you have a majority of your population that can't even afford to buy a house anymore, or even shelter, I mean, apartments are $2,000 a month. So something's got to give.
Okay. Well, so I got a list of a few bills here. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. And speaking of apartments, there's a bill, which is Senate Bill 651, and that has to do with landlord-tenant relations. And the title of the bill is Good Cause Termination, Good Cause Eviction. So this bill will actually grant tenants, for a landlord to make an eviction, they can't just evict someone or increase the rent in order to force someone out. This bill would actually require landlords to provide a good reason or a good cause for the eviction. So this is one of the bills that Mr. Carrington had recommended that we follow, and I think that I'd like to take action on that. Mr. Summerall.
Mr. Barry, I just want to let council know that Mr. Carrington's online, if you have questions for him.
Thank you. I would concur with support of that bill too. If anyone, as far as like the good cause eviction goes, people could still be evicted for violating the terms of their lease. That's a good cause to evict someone, but you couldn't say evict someone because they're complaining constantly about the state of their apartment, which is falling apart around them, which happens. People complain about their living conditions and then they get evicted for doing so, for reporting them to code enforcement or whatever. So this bill sort of would protect from those kinds of evictions happening. But there are plenty of reasons like good cause. So it's for violating terms of the lease. I think you could, if you plan to move into the unit yourself, or if you have extensive repairs you're doing to your unit that would take more than a certain amount of time, more than 6 months or something, and you couldn't have. So those are all good cause, but you couldn't really just evict someone because you didn't like them, or, you didn't like the things that they were saying about you, kind of thing.
Right, right, right. So there was a second. I don't know if Mr. Carrington is available, if you'd like to just talk about the fiscal note or the likelihood of this moving forward, that would be fine. Mr. Carrington, are you there?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Darrell Carrington, Carrington and Associates LLC. Mr. Mayor and council, please accept my apologies. I'm having a very difficult time hearing you. So were you asking me to comment on the good cause eviction bill or on SB 893? And I did hear you supported that, and we'll draft testimony for you.
Right. Yeah, no, it's Senate Bill 651, the good cause.
Okay. Yes, Senate Bill 651 is a bill that we've actually had before the General Assembly in a different form over the years. Obviously, the landlords come out in opposition, and the tenant advocates come out in support. The hearing is going to be held on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to bring up the windows are. Here we go. So you have that hearing on the 27th. Nevertheless, what we will do is we will draft a letter of support for the council with respect to that bill. I will say that they may get something done this year, especially because of the uncertainty that many workers, as you've already discussed, may be facing because of layoffs and the like based upon federal action. So we will do two things. Of course, we will be monitoring it and making sure that we give you reports as to its posture as it's moving forward. And of course, we'll draft some testimony for your review to be submitted at any favorable position for the bill for the council.
It's very helpful. Thank you. Hey, so there's...
Mr. Mayor, if I might also add, crossover is March 17th.
March 17th. I'd like to go ahead and take a vote. We've got a couple of questions. Shall I take the questions? Or yes, Mr. Rand, please.
So Ms. Pompey noted the Maryland Values Act, which was part of the CASA Immigration Justice Package. There's two others, Maryland Data Privacy Act, SB 977, and Protecting Sensitive Locations Act, HB 1006, and SB 828. I hope, excuse me, I hope council will also track those and offer letters of support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are tracking those. Yeah.
I think we voted to support them in the last meeting.
Did, yeah. And Ms. Rosenthal, and this is a question about the motion that we have right now. Please.
Laura Rosenthal, 2 Court Garden Way. I want to kind of apologize because I was planning to write to council this week to my understanding of the Carrington list and then the ones that have been added by various council members. And even tonight, I'm trying to look at last session's list and this, and just Mr. Samarin or Mr. George, they're not in they're not in numerical order. So like it's almost impossible during the meeting to see. So I guess my question is, Mr. Rob Rand mentioned the 3 CASA bills, and I don't know, I couldn't see, I don't know the numbers of them, so I couldn't see if all 3 CASA bills were on here. I think you all had mentioned about the maglev. I think Ms. Williams' maglev bill is on there. I think the Sierra Club had suggested 3 bills. Maybe Kathy Bartolomeo had mentioned them, and I think the beverage container one is on there, right? And I think someone just mentioned about the Abundant Affordable Clean Energy Act is on there. I don't know if the other Sierra Club bill, again, I'm just grappling for numbers here. It's HB 84. It's Transportation and Climate Alignment Act, finally known as TCAA. I guess there's, again, I can't find them on here, but there was one about rental assistance, state rental assistance. It was on the Carrington list, but I don't know if it's made it to your final list. That's HB 716. There was one, I think the council needed to vote against, which had to do about providing list of voter registration and something. Again, this was from the Carrington list. It was HB 680. So, like, partly I'm just asking that. I can't find the bills, on the list to see if it made it to your final list or not.
Thank you, thank you. It's
so-
not a final list exactly.
But the ones that Mr. George and Mr. Salmaron would be writing the letters that you all would sign. So I don't know. Again, if I had emailed ahead of time, maybe I would have found the answer to these questions. But I just hope that you're following the Carrington list, plus the CASA list, plus the Sierra Club list,
Yes,
plus
yeah.
the Maglev
Thank you.
list, and that there is this one bill that I hope you're going to adamantly
Yes, thank
vote
you.
against. And then also just and I'm surprised Mr. Orleans hasn't mentioned that there were a bunch of things in that fourth quadrant that to me look really important, but I don't really understand about showing just cause and rape kits and vehicle
Right.
miles traveled. So,
So,
I just don't know
yes,
what's made it to the last list. Thank you. That was my
One of the
comment.
things that I asked for earlier in the meeting is to kind of update the list and to add some comments so it'll be easier for people to follow. We do have a motion on the floor. Please, Mr. Summerall.
Mr. Mayor, the list there's so many lists. So Mr. George is trying to simplify this by the list that you've been explicit in supporting are now making it onto this list, which is the one that you referenced earlier. And we hope that this will make it easier for council on what you've moved from either the PGCMA list or the MML list or the Carrington list onto what is the city council list.
Really appreciate that. That makes it so much easier. And in regard to the quadrants, what happens is based on the hearings, based on what Mr. Carrington hears, based on what we talk about in PGCMA or MML, sometimes a bill that sounds good just is not going to move forward, and that's really obvious. And that's what happens when these bills sort of end up in the fourth quadrant, for the most part.
Mr. Mayor, may I add something?
Yes, please go ahead.
And Mr. Mayor, to your point, I definitely want to emphasize that, especially for the public watching, there will be occasions where there may be a bill title that may seem like it's definitely something we want to get behind. We may not have included it originally on our list, and that does not mean we cannot add it and we cannot track it for you. However, we've been asked to evaluate bills also based upon their merit, their likelihood of moving forward, and the interest of the city's time. I don't want us spending 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, weeks, phone calls, and the like on a bill that never had a chance from the time it was written.
I appreciate that. It's very thoughtful. There's a motion on the floor. I'd kind of like to vote on that. Yeah. So all in favor? That's in terms of supporting the good local good cause. Yeah. Eviction Senate Bill 651. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Got a few more bills. We can't cover everything. Mr. Hartman, did you have something that fits right in with our discussion?
Yeah, you just voted on the bill, but I did want to say that any bill connected with eviction is very important, extremely important. And that's because if you get evicted, you most likely will lose your Section 8 housing voucher. And I just want to say that I hope that if there's a bill that deals with eviction, that you really put special attention on that, because there are consequences that are not always so apparent, but you can lose your housing voucher for Section 8 housing if you're evicted from your place. That's really important.
That's why we raised it up and voted on it, because it's important. Do you have another bill you wanted to bring?
I just wanted to quickly address, Ms. Rosenthal mentioned Senate Bill 68 or House Bill 680, and that's dead on arrival. So the reason we haven't opposed it is because it's got no legs, it's got no support, it's not going to get a vote. So, and as the mayor was saying, we try to really focus our efforts on things that we know we're going to move. So since we are very certain that's not moving, that's why we haven't focused.
Mr. Carrington, that Senate Bill 820, which involves municipal enforcement, it allows us to, enables us to raise the fee for municipal infractions. For example, if there are code violations that have been identified by our staff, we would be able to increase the fee from $1,000 to $5,000, which might be a little bit more meaningful. Is the
Yeah,
hearing
Mr.
on that, is that tomorrow? Senate Bill 820.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm just having difficulty hearing you, but if you're asking about Senate Bill 820, the one that allows you to raise municipal infractions,
Yes.
yes, that is on our list. We are tracking that and monitoring that as one of our priority bills for the session.
Did we vote to support that or to send a letter of support? That's Senator Watson, I think, right? Rosapap, yeah. I think I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter of support for that. Yeah, we've seen too often in the last year situations where there are violations, code violations in some of our apartment developments, and it just seems like the fines that we're able to levy are not enough to really motivate the response that we need to have. So I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter of support. Is there any discussion on that?
Do we have time to send a bill if the hearing's tomorrow, Mr. Carrington?
No, the hearing is on the 4th.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry, I misheard.
Sorry, yeah.
I misunderstood.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. The sensitive locations bill, we voted to send a letter on that. Yeah, right. So those are just a few bills that I had highlighted. Anybody see any other bills that they think that we need to act on?
It's not a bill that we need to act on, but it is a bill. It's a late introduced bill, so it's stuck in rules, so it may go nowhere. But for your information, this is a bill that would prohibit a municipality from annexing lands that is located in a different legislative district than the legislative district in which the municipality is located. And not that we have any immediate plans to annex anything, but we certainly don't want any bills prohibiting us or anyone else from doing that should they want. So it's stuck in rules. It was late introduction. It may go nowhere, but I think keeping our eye on it and the fact that they've introduced it this year may mean it's something that we see again next year. So
I could give you background information on that if you would like, Councilwoman.
What?
He says
I could give you
background.
the bill history if you would like.
Oh, okay. Does that have to do with the Bladensburg and Cheverly?
That's the Bladens bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Carrington, I appreciate it. You sent us two bills, kind of wrapping up this section of the agenda. You sent us two late filed bills. Can you briefly describe them? You sent them over this
I
afternoon.
think one of them may have been Delegate Williams's bill. The other one was a zoning bill from Delegate Alston, which is still dealing with the issue of local zoning authority, and so that we've had delegates and senators address this from different ways. Senator Charles attacked it by allowing you all to have veto authority overall. Delegate Holmes did his typical land use bill that we've had about 3 years ago, and then this is an attempt to try to work with the process and then give you all more standing in case you would like to challenge a decision of the district court. And so we gave you our summary report. And then if the council chooses to take a position of support, we drafted some language that could be used.
Yeah, appreciate that. The hearing, the next step for that bill, and if I understand it correctly, so it provides some redress if the planning board makes a determination. It's not the final it would not be the final determination. It would be appealable by the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning. Is that correct? I'm not saying that. The district council could be overruled. Is that the essence of the bill?
I see the essence of the bill, Mr. Mayor, and I think it's important for our purposes, even if this particular vehicle does not move, I think it's important that you have several of your state local delegation that's attempting to try to address this issue and really try to figure out how we can get everyone back together probably in the interim and find something that works.
Right. So when's the hearing for that bill?
The hearing for that bill, I'm sorry, didn't have that. My chart went down. I'm really trying to bring up other windows and trying to hear you.
You in Annapolis right now?
No, we're back at the Kin Hill Center office.
Okay.
In the interest of your time, continue on. I'll get you the date.
Okay, well, I'm just about wrapped up. Other council members, you see anything else? Okay. Well, Mr. Samaro, Mr. George, thank you for pulling this together and so that we can be as organized as possible moving forward. And Mr. Carrington, thank you for your diligent work there in Annapolis on our behalf. We do appreciate it. And also, we appreciate the county bills. Was there a county bill that PGCMA was talking about this morning?
There's a couple bills I highlighted for you in your county update in which they could have an impact on. There's one for some type of credit for seniors in terms of housing, but there is a landlord-related bill that could have an impact. And I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. I can bring up your report.
Was that
It's very detailed. You have to understand,
117-25?
We have over 3,200 bills in the State House and another now like 20 or 30 at the county. So, please bear with us as we're trying to remember all of
No.
them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So at this time, I think we should wrap this agenda item up and move on. Ms. Carrington, once again, thank you for your good work. Appreciate
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. And thank you, Mr. Sullivan and Mr. George. Appreciate your help.
Okay. And I think that's going to bring us to item number 17. Is that correct? In the right place? Okay, and that is...
Well, you've got council activities, council reports.
council
and
activities,
meetings,
council
yes.
reports. It's been incredibly busy. There's just been so much going on. And, Mayor Pro Tem does such a nice job of sort of organizing. She takes everything and she puts it on a piece of paper, and then we're able to put it up. And we used to talk about these council activities, which was interesting, but would take a lot of time. Interesting to some people. So, I don't know, anybody want to talk about, seriously, there have been a lot of very, very interesting programs. Anybody want to talk about anything in particular? Please.
My son and I went to see Piece by Piece, which is the Pharrell Williams story, at the Greenbelt Cinema over the weekend. That was sponsored by Ruach and the Greenbelt Black History Arts and Culture Committee, and it was fantastic. We really enjoyed it, and it was just, it was great to see it. They did a wonderful job. We really enjoyed ourselves. The orchestra concert yesterday was
Beautiful.
like really just really moving and fantastic. I went to, I know Miss McKinney was there as well, the Underwater Archaeological Slave Wreck Project Talk at the library a couple weeks ago, and that was just like, I feel like I could take a whole college course on that and still not have gotten enough information about what was like. He could have been there all day, and there would have been so many stones to unturned. It was really fascinating, and the lecturer did a great job. So that's, yeah. And, the other thing to add is that I had the MML, our conference planning committee meeting was last week. And if Greenbelt would like to participate in the, what do they call it? They call it the Main Street. If we would like to be featured as one of the Main Street cities, applications for that will open on March 4th. There are 12 municipalities can participate. The cost is $500. 2 people will get 1-day registration to attend as part of that. So if that's something the city's interested in applying to do, I just wanted to put that out there.
Is this where we put the table out front and
Have some
bring
people that
goodies?
grab
And,
chips and that's what the Main Street is. And they're gonna do it a little differently this year. I think they're gonna do it in the back where we usually have the reception instead of doing it sort of along the side like they did last year. So it just has more visibility and more space. because it got a little crowded in there, if you all remember last year. So, yeah, so that's the only other thing to add.
I would welcome more information on the staffing requirement because I understand we have to staff it and so,
Okay, I can let you know about that.
and also if council is interested in.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to compliment the Greenbelt Black History and Culture Committee for all of the events and activities that they have planned throughout the month of February. There's a really nice assortment of activities to engage people and help folks understand and acknowledge some of the wonderful things that happen every day in the United States and around the world that are related to the Black history and culture. I did something pretty interesting on the 15th. I got an invitation for the installation of the bishop, the district bishop for the Presbyterian Church of Ghana. There's a congregation in Greenbelt. It's actually just right over the line in Lamb, but I attended, and it was really a wonderful activity. There were about 100 people there, from a lot of them from Greenbelt, but also from the surrounding area, and it just reminds me again of the rich diversity of people that we have living in this community, just people from all over the world. And another thing that I wanted to mention is, I guess it was last Thursday, there was a meeting, the acting County Executive Tara Jackson held a meeting with mayors and city administrators. Josue, Mr. Summerone and I attended on the 19th, and she talked a little bit about the budget challenges that the county is facing, and took a lot of questions. But I think she's doing a really good job considering all of the daunting things facing the county right now. And I guess she's got another week or so. Well, no, she'll be in office until June. But the primary, when is the last day of early voting? Anybody know when that is? That's I cast my vote about 3 weeks ago, and then the candidate dropped out. Oh, no, but seriously, voting. Is there in-person voting or?
There is in-person
There is
voting.
in-person voting.
Anybody pull that up? Well, that's coming up in a few days. I think Tuesday is the 5th. Tuesday the 5th is election day for the primary. Tuesday the 4th. Okay. Anybody else want to make any comments about things in the community? Tons of things, and it'll be council's activities will be listed in the minutes.
So for the special primary election, early voting is February 26th through March 3rd. Election day is March 4th. And then the special general, early voting will be May 28th through June 2nd, and election day will be June 3rd.
Okay, so it sounds like early voting starts the 26th, which would be Wednesday through the 3rd?
Yep.
And you'd be able to go, what's the closest polling place? Anybody know? College Park?
That's probably right.
Okay. Well, very good, very good. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one more item. I had some great conversations this weekend with several residents about looking at ways to address some of the food insecurity in the community by looking at ways that we might be able to expand some of our vegetable and herb gardens in the community. And I know Melissa, Ms. Enrick was one of the people that I was meeting with. And so we're hoping that this can come as part of the task force, one of the areas that they're looking at. So more to come. I know that we're looking at ways to gather support working through Cheers, as well as some of the other community organizations. So I just want to thank some of the initial residents that I spoke with this weekend. It seems like there's a lot of support out there for trying to look at ways that we can really address some of the needs that I think is only going to increase further with a lot of the things happening with the Fed.
Definitely. I think I saw the community, the garden club is having a meeting this week, I think, just talking about the plot allocation. Do you know what day is that?
Yeah, the annual meeting for the garden club. I don't think it's this week. I think it's actually
Next week? Okay. Very good. Well, let's go ahead and move on to item number 17, which is an action item, and this is a budget meeting list. So included in the council packet is a memorandum detailing proposed changes to the meeting schedule for the calendar year 2025. The suggestions for 2025 meeting calendar are shown as below. First off, reschedule Monday, March the 10th regular meeting to Wednesday, March the 12th. We had an opening on March the 12th, and the National League of Cities Conference is going to be in full swing on the 10th. So we'll be, if we vote to make this amendment, we'll shift the meeting to March the 12th. On Easter Monday, we've had this tradition of not meeting on Easter Monday, so there'd be no work session on the 21st. There's a proposal to reschedule the Monday, May 26th regular meeting to Tuesday, May 27th, and that's to avoid Memorial Day. Then on Monday, June the 9th, the regular meeting and the Monday, June 23rd regular meeting would both be shifted a week to June 2nd and to Monday, June the 16th. And that's going to give us enough time to adopt the budget, hopefully. Now, we don't know. We may not be able to adopt the budget, but we probably will. We'll have to take a look at it and see what's in there.
We will deliver a balanced budget to council, March 24th.
Huh. Okay, and also the Municipal League Conference starts on June the 22nd. I was in a board meeting with MML, and they're actually planning more activities on Sunday than usual. So they've actually made the suggestion that if you can, try and arrive early. Now, my plans are pretty much set, but that's what MML was saying. Not to get too far off track, though, the final proposal is no work session on Wednesday, November 19th, and that's also because of the National League of Cities schedule. So in order to make these changes, somebody from council is going to need to make a motion.
Before we make that motion,
Please.
I'm also wondering if we can look at the summer resource, especially since we're already going into November as well, discuss in the past couple of years, we've taken the last 2 weeks in July as a resource for recess for council. And I'm wondering if we can also add that to the agenda, or if there's any discussion around that needed.
Well, I'd kind of like to wait until things shape up a little bit more, as opposed to just blocking out the time now. But your comment is well taken, and I think that the will of council has been that we take some time. I'd like to kind of just see where that falls on the calendar.
I mean, I would like to talk about it though, because, some of us need to do vacation planning that involves many people in our families. So it's March. So that's not that far from July. Like my family needs to book our, summer rental and make plans to visit family and stuff now. I don't know if I'm the only one in that position.
No,
But,
I agree.
but
Mhm.
so if we can just discuss that, that would be, I think, like I said, it is soon if you're trying to take vacation.
So I don't know. So when does the 4th of July weekend, when does that fall? Does
4th
that
of
fall on
July is
Monday or Thursday?
It's a Friday. It's a Friday, so the first meeting of council would happen on the 14th and 28th of July. Is that right?
One meeting in July.
One meeting in July.
Voted to
Yeah.
change that last time, so that's not engraved, but we could vote to only have one meeting in July again.
So-
I believe it's set on the
Standing rules.
council website. That's standing, right? Right. Right.
But we should go ahead and all have to make travel plans. And really, July is not that far off. I mean, it's going really fast. Look, February is it's over, right? So we're in March. Next week we're in March.
So would that mean that we would have our regular meeting on the 14th of July, and then the week of the 21st and the 28th would be?
Based on your proposal, yes. However, that second week is a partial week of July because August 1st is that Friday.
Either we would have to move up or adjust the council meeting and that it not be on the 14th to make the 14th and the 21st, or keep it just running into August. I don't know if there's.
It's a one day, yeah. So that would be,
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
The 21st and the 28th.
so that one meeting for July would be July 14th. Okay.
Okay. So would someone like to make that motion and combine it with these?
Are you making one motion for all of the meetings? So on that note, then do you want to just settle on what will be the August schedule as well?
So I would recommend that we then would come back from recess, and then our August meeting would start on the 11th of August. We'd have our one meeting for August. Obviously, we would have to look to see if there are other issues that come up. We reserve the right to put additional meetings on, but the one that we should announce and plan for at this time be August 11th.
Okay, would you like to make the motion for us to act on these proposals?
One more thing, sorry. The budget work session schedule is also included. So a vote on the meetings would also include on the.
Can we let's look at that then.
Do you want to put that up on the screen?
Sure. Bonita, do you have that available? Okay. So while Bonita's doing that, for the month of August, council will be off from August 18th through August 29th, and then resume September 1st.
Just a question, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I have a question. Will we have time to have a conversation on how we want to approach the budget meetings? I know there's a lot to get through and a lot of information, and I want to make sure that we're providing guidance to city staff on either questions that we're presenting ahead of time so that they can prepare to respond to them and not necessarily have to do it in the moment, because when they don't, they end up having to come back, and that ends up more time, and we're trying to be efficient. So I'm wondering when we can talk about how we want to approach those meetings to make them as efficient and helpful as possible, as well as how we are going to kind of structure questions not only from council but also from residents during those work sessions, so that we can kind of stay on target.
I think we can talk about that in the with the initial presentation of the budget, which is coming up. Is that 2 weeks from now or next week? 2 weeks from now.
A month from now, March 24th. Today is February 24th.
The schedule's pretty tight, and I don't really see. We've got on the 5th, I believe, we have some interviews for the task force, the charter task force. So there's a little bit of time if we wanted to have an in-depth discussion about those topics. But I think with a little bit of preparation, I don't think we need to have a work session on that.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we had a conversation so that we were also clear amongst ourselves as well as residents on what the flow of the budget work sessions were going to be.
What we would appreciate is having as many questions ahead of time so that we can prioritize your questions and our responses in alignment with your questions. As far as process, this is a council-driven process, so we will do what is necessary for us to provide the information to council, whether that's line by line, or summary of the budgets. So we're prepared to handle the request of council.
And it's been traditionally the case that we provided questions ahead of time in writing, and that staff has plenty of time to respond to those questions properly.
Okay. One thing with the, I admit, I've not looked really, really closely at the budget presentation sequence. So if there's an opportunity to perhaps combine two of the topics on one night, got to take a close look at that. And also, it kind of depends on what you present to us as well. So, but right now, I'd like to go ahead, given that it's almost 10 o'clock.
All right, you have a motion to make?
No, I don't have a motion. I was hoping one of my peers on council.
I
would
will,
make that.
I move to accept the proposed council meeting schedule as amended and the suggested FY 2026 budget meetings as presented.
Second.
There's a second. Let's have discussion on that. We have a comment on the schedule. Mr. Orleans, did you have a comment on the council schedule?
I have seen in tonight's full package for the first reading of the increasing the compensation of council language that council has determined that it's appropriate to raise its compensation. The
Wait a
question I was
second.
going to ask earlier is,
the
question I asked earlier is when that determination
You're
was
out of
made.
order, sir.
But my
Please have a
question,
seat.
my question now is, since ethics also was up for a vote tonight and
Mr.
passed,
Orleans, would you please?
how is it ethical for council to expect an increased compensation
Orleans,
when
will you
even now
please
it's
have a
spent the
seat,
last 10
sir?
minutes trying to do less work in public? You're trying to have less
Orleans,
meetings
will
in
you
public.
please have a seat?
So I'm asking, how is it ethical?
Can we have this gentleman removed from council chambers?
You're not going to answer the question?
No, I'm not.
How it's ethical to expect an increased compensation when you're doing less
So
work
let's
in
go
public?
ahead. All in favor?
I'm not leaving. Call
All in
class.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So that brings us to the end of the agenda. And can I have a
Thank you
motion
very
to
much.
close the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
Politics is not